I invite you to look with me at the 21st chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew, beginning with verse 23. When Jesus entered the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him as he was teaching and said, "By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority?" Jesus said to them, I will also ask you one question. If you tell me the answer, then I will also tell you by what authority I do these things. Did the baptism of John come from heaven, or was it of human origin? And they argue with one another. If we say from heaven, he will say to us, why then did you not believe him? But if we say of human origin, we are afraid of the crowd, for all regard John as a prophet. So they answered Jesus, we do not know. And he said to them, neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things. What do you think? A man had 2 sons. He went to the first and said, son, go and work in the vineyard today. He answered, I will not. But later he changed his mind and went. The father went to the second and said the same, and he answered, I will go, sir. But he did not go. Which of the two did the will of his father? They said, the first. Jesus said to them, truly I tell you, the tax collectors and the prostitutes are going into the kingdom of God ahead of you. For John came to you in the way of righteousness, and you did not believe him. But the tax collectors and the prostitutes believed him, and even after you saw it, you did not change your minds and believe him. This is the gospel of our Lord. Let us pray. God, thank you for the gift of gathering in this sanctuary for worship, and especially for the gift of gathering around this table, where all are made one, where there is no longer male or female, slave or free, Jew or Greek. We are all one. The walls have been broken down. The barriers have been removed. May we gain a greater sense of that unity today. May we gain a greater awareness of who you are and whose we are, and how you are calling us into this world to be peacemakers, to be hope bearers, to be lights. And may the words of my mouth, the meditations of all of our hearts this day be pleasing and acceptable to you, our Lord, our rock, our Redeemer. Amen. If you've only been using Coca-Cola as a refreshing drink up to this point, you have been missing out. Because in addition to its great taste, Coca-Cola is practically a jack of all trades when it comes to human life in general. From cleaning to health to beauty, there's something Coke can do for all of us. You can use it to remove rust and stains. It will clean both your toilet bowl and your burned pots, as well as polish chrome. It can also be used as hair conditioner, and it can be used to get gum out of hair. It can help with stomach blockages, wasp stings. It is an anti-nausea remedy. It can be used as a pesticide. It can clean your car battery. It is a compost catalyst, and apparently it will make your brownies taste a whole lot better. Now, I'm guessing you will think twice the next time you grab a Coke, knowing it does all those things. Well, there's another thing Coke can do. It can help defog the headlights on your car. I've actually tried that. It works pretty well, actually. Now, other than the steering wheel and, of course, a working engine, headlights are an essential part of any car, maybe one of the most important parts of a car. You need headlights to see and to be seen. In his letter from Birmingham jail, Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of the dream of a nation embracing the wondrous diversity of humankind as a reflection of God's creativity. Embracing the wonderful diversity of humankind as a reflection of God's creativity. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The church is called to be a headlight, not a tail light, in the quest for God's vision of shalom, God's vision for peace." Now, somehow, the word peace has become tarnished, broken, misunderstood, maybe even hijacked a little bit. When people do some kind of peacemaking in a world that doesn't allow for a whole lot of peacemaking, they are often called different names. They are given labels. They are called liberals and pacifists and idealists and activists and dreamers. And I get it. I even cringe a little bit when I hear or use that word peace because it has become a little bit tarnished. Ironically, the very word peace means wholeness and completeness, and yet it is somewhat broken in today's world. I can experience peace reading a book in a coffee shop or by the fire in my house. I can experience peace going on a bike ride or on a hike. I can experience peace on the porch of a cabin on a beautiful lake. I can experience peace going out to dinner with my wife without children, because we all know it's impossible to experience peace with children in a restaurant. But is any of this really peace in its fullest sense? I don't think it is. I think perhaps it's a glimpse of peace. But can any of us really experience the fullness of peace when many of us don't experience it at all? It is so much bigger than just an individual sense of calmness or serenity. And there is a lot more to it than we realize when we pass it to each other in worship, like we did a few moments ago. Now, we don't have to look very far in the scriptures to discover how central peace is to its story. Shalom, as you all know, is the Hebrew word translated as peace. And shalom basically means wholeness, completeness, fullness, salvation, and flourishing. Shalom shows up 397 times just in the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament alone. Now, when someone greeted you with the traditional greeting of shalom, they were voicing their hope for your wholeness and your welfare in all of life, spiritually, physically, emotionally, economically, politically. What is surprising, though, is that the term shalom wasn't created. Shalom is who God is. Much like we say God is love, we can also say God is peace. God is a perfect embodiment of what peace looks like, because the very nature of God as Trinity is this unity in diversity. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit live in this constant dance almost of mutuality and community and diversity. They have the perfect embodiment of shalom within the relationships with each other. Peace was real ever before anyone ever uttered the word into existence. But then, God, who is shalom, ended up speaking that word, shalom, into being. Now, after establishing the framework for creation, God crafted the pinnacle of his work, humanity, us, you and me. It was a beautiful story. God as peace, in a peaceful relationship with humanity and creation, existing together in this constant state of mutuality and cohesion, unity and diversity. Creation flourished and humanity flourished. There was incredible diversity with plants and animals and the different seasons and unique personalities, and everything was how it was supposed to be, how God as peace intended it to be. Fully known, fully alive, fully free, were humanity and creation together. It was whole. It was complete. It was the embodiment of fullness. It was peace on earth as it is in heaven. And that literally lasted for 2 chapters of the Bible. Now, there are 1,189 chapters in the entire Bible. But it took all of 2 chapters for that shalom, for that peace to fall apart. You know the story of how shalom crumbled. Conflict was born on the day that shalom was shattered, but it wasn't because of diversity. Conflict happened because of pride and our insatiable appetite for power. But God never went away because of that brokenness of shalom. In fact, God got closer in a different way. And beginning with chapter 3 of Genesis is a story of how God has been trying to restore humanity, the world, back to its completeness, the wholeness, the fullness, the shalom, which was originally intended for it, and which God originally wanted for it, and which was originally experienced at the beginning. And the biblical story from the 3rd chapter on is absolutely saturated with how God is being a peacemaker in the midst of a world hungry for power. Which begs the question, what is God's vision for peace? Is it even realistic? Is it a gigantic waste of time? And what right do I have as a male, white, straight, middle-class guy in Albany, Oregon, to speak about peace? Well, my right is the same as your right. Blessed are the peacemakers, Jesus says, for they will be called children of God. Do you know why Jesus even had the guts to say something like this? Because the whole idea of God is peace showed up in a brand new way in Jesus. He was the embodiment of shalom in a new way. He was the abundance of wholeness, completeness, and fullness in the flesh that God created at the beginning. He was the headlight that Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about. Jesus shines a light on what the world will look like, not only when people embrace their identity as beloved children of God, but when also they use that identity to seek shalom for their brothers and sisters around the world. Jesus shows us what broken relationships look like when they're no longer broken. He shows us what unjust systems look like when they are repaired and remodeled, when they eventually help everyone flourish. Jesus shows us, again, the gift of diversity that was there at the beginning, not as a problem to solve, but as a beautiful reality to be embraced and lived into. A few years ago, somebody asked the television psychologist and celebrity Dr. Phil, if you could interview anyone in the world, past or present, who would it be? Dr. Phil replied without hesitation, Jesus Christ. I would really like to interview Jesus Christ. I would like to have a conversation with him about the meaning of life. I'd like to say, Dr. Phil, no, you wouldn't. You don't know what you're asking. You would not want to sit down with that Jesus and treat him like an interviewee and ask him about the meaning of life, because you'd be crazy to do that, because he would turn your life upside down and inside out. He might even ask you to sell all your possessions and give it all to the poor and to come follow him. I don't think Dr. Phil really realizes the gravity of that request. He does not really want to interview Jesus, and I'm not sure I want to interview Jesus either, because I don't think it would go well. It would not go well because we would be hit square in the face with the pandemonium of peace. Now, aren't those two things opposite? Pandemonium and peace, chaos, mayhem, and peace? Well, not if you embrace the mission of God as bringing reconciliation and restoration back to the world, bringing that shalom back to the world. Because if you embrace that mission and your role in that mission as a shalom maker, a peacemaker, it will cause total pandemonium in the world. It will cause a different kind of chaos, mayhem, and uproar. And as the chief priests and the elders in the story of Matthew's gospel this morning discover, conversations with Jesus are dangerous. And the world rarely remains the same at the end of a conversation with Jesus. The twists and turns, the challenges, the interruptions come so fast that we are left with our heads spinning and our lives on the line. We end up both confounded and claimed at the same time. It is pandemonium. There is pandemonium in this story this morning. Because Jesus is not interested in questions about the meaning of life. What he is interested in is confronting us with the issue of identity and a call to faith. He wants our lives, and he will do whatever it takes to unmask our priorities, our perspectives, in order to do whatever it takes to bring shalom into the mess of the world. Because Jesus is never walking away from the world. He only retreats every now and then to pray. But he is walking right into the mess of the world, right into the brokenness, the darkness, the chaos, the dysfunction, the restlessness, the ache, and the pain. And he is offering a different kind of pandemonium. Peace, shalom. The Apostle Paul, in his goodbye sermon to the elders from Ephesus, summed up his 3 years of ministering to that church like this. He says, "I did not shrink from declaring to you the whole purpose of God." Friends, peace, shalom, isn't just of value to God. It is central to who God is, I believe. It is the whole purpose of God, the Apostle Paul speaks of. Peace isn't just a result of something God does. It is God's mission. It is the very thing God is about first and foremost. And could it be that peacemaking is then central to us as followers of Jesus Christ in our homes, our neighborhoods, our places of work, our schools, our communities? Jesus invites us into ushering a new world into existence and to be part of what God is doing. That is the purpose of God. That is shalom. And if that's not what God is about, if that's not what the church is ultimately about, then I'm out. I'm done. If all of this is just about maintaining an institution, then forget it. If the church is not about being a headlight in our quest for God's vision of peace, that wholeness in our communities, in our broken relationships, in our cities, in our nation, in our world, if we're not about that, then what's the point? If we cannot be that headlight or refuse to be that headlight to see and to be seen, then my job is useless. Our followership of Christ is useless. The reason why we celebrate World Communion on this day is because we are headlights. The church is called to shine as the light of the world. In a day of embarrassing fractures, we are still called to be united with Jesus as he prayed for us to be united. In a world where the poor are still poor, where war is still war, and soldiers live with post-traumatic stress disorder, where refugees long for a home, where people live with chronic illness, where children live without love, where racial division is still a thing, and so many other forms of suffocating darkness that seem to have their way, we can still somehow, by God's grace perhaps, gather around this table and claim a God who is peace, who is shalom. And friends, this table, the Lord's table, is open to everyone. It's open to all. You do not have to qualify by virtue of some degree of righteousness to come to this table. This meal is prepared for your nourishment, your strength, for your soul. It is prepared by Jesus Christ, who offered his whole life that we might become people of peace, and to keep learning what that means and what that looks like. because we do not live by ourselves. That is the greatest thing about World Communion Sunday. We are all connected to each other. We are part of a global community. And this is a joyful feast of the whole people of God. People will come from east and west and north and south to gather at this table, Scripture tells us. And when our risen Lord was at the table with his disciples, he took the bread and blessed it and broke it and gave it to them, and their eyes were opened and they recognized him. And the more we join with each other and the more we join with others around this table, we begin to sense the wideness, the bigness, the hugeness of what this is really about. To come to this table, to partake with Jesus in this meal, is to be committed to do something to change this world. To partner with God in restoring this world back to that shalom God wanted for it in the first place. It is more than a simple ritual we do here. It is our personal commitment to be renewed and redirected by a God of peace.